Good morning. My name is Amita Swadhin. I am a resident of Los Angeles, California, to two immigrants from India and raised in New Jersey. And I'm grateful to Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Whitehouse, and members of the committee for the opportunity to be here today. In October, hot mic tapes were released of President-elect Trump describing forcibly kissing women and grabbing women by the genitals. In the wake of these comments becoming public, Senator Sessions was quoted stating he doesn't characterize that behavior as sexual assault. Millions of sexual assault survivors were triggered in the wake of these events. I was one of those survivors. My father raped me at least once a week from age 4 to age 12. I endured psychological, verbal, and physical abuse from him for years. I also grew up watching my father abuse my mother in a textbook case of domestic violence and marital rape. When I disclosed the sexual abuse to my mother at age 13, she called a therapist, engaging mandated reporting. The prosecutors threatened to prosecute my mother for being complicit. They told me I would be harshly cross-examined by the defense attorney and did not connect me to any victim support services. I was too afraid to tell them my story. My father received 5 years probation and no jail time, and his violence continued for 2 years until my mother finally found the support to leave him. I am here today on behalf of rape and sexual assault survivors to urge you not to confirm Senator Sessions as Attorney General. As a publicly out survivor of child sexual abuse, many people have downplayed the impact of this violence on my present-day life. I live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder and struggle every day to be well. It directly and negatively impacts me when people minimize sexual assault. So to hear Senator Sessions initially say President-elect Trump comments do not constitute sexual assault, and then to consider him leading the Department of Justice has been incredibly worrisome. I am unfortunately far from alone in my experience. More than 320,000 Americans over age 12 or sexually assaulted every year. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before age 18. These are public health issues occurring in the private sphere. In 80% of adult sexual assaults and 90% of cases of child sexual abuse, victims know and trust our perpetrators. For this reason, most victims of violent crime never seek healing or accountability from the state. Most violent crimes remain unreported. Thankfully, we have improved the response of the criminal justice system with the creation of the Violence Against Women Act in 1994. The STOP formula grants under VAWA provide training to judges, prosecutors, and police officers and other law enforcement personnel to better support survivors. In 1991, the police did not contact victim services for me, but today, thanks to VAWA, law enforcement is encouraged to provide victims an advocate to support them in breaking their silence. Yet despite this progress, rape, sexual assault, and domestic violence still happen at epidemic rates, and survivors at the intersections of oppression are especially vulnerable. LGBT people, and particularly transgender women of color, are disproportionately victimized. 1 in 2 transgender people will be raped or sexually assaulted in their lifetime. Furthermore, the majority of hate violence homicide victims are transgender women. In fact, only 11 days into the new year, 2 transgender women of color have already been murdered. Misha Caldwell, an African-American transgender woman from Mississippi, and Jamie Lee Wounded Arrow, a Two-Spirit Oglala Lakota woman from South Dakota. We need an Attorney General who is committed to improving and enforcing our laws to ensure the most vulnerable victims of crime can come forward to seek accountability and to access healing. Time and again, Senator Sessions' voting record has shown us he is not the man for the job. Despite his claim to be a champion for victims of violent crime, he has not been a friend to vulnerable survivors. Senator Sessions voted in favor of the Violence Against Women Act in the bill's early years, when VAWA was expanded in 2013 to ensure LGBT, immigrant, and tribal populations of domestic violence and sexual assault survivors are protected and have access to services. Senator Sessions voted against the bill. We must trust the Attorney General to enforce and apply our laws fairly, per our Constitution's provisions on equal protection. We must trust the Attorney General to respect the humanity of all Americans, and especially to be committed to seeking justice for our most vulnerable victims of crime. Given his voting record on VAWA and on LGBT rights, we have no reason to put our faith or our trust in Senator Sessions as Attorney General. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that members of the National Task Force to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, including but not limited to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the YWCA, the National Council of Jewish Women, UJIMA, the National Center on Violence Against Women in the Black Community, the National Alliance to End Sexual Violence, the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs, Break the Cycle, and Jewish Women International oppose Senator Sessions' nomination because of the issues I am raising today. Thank you.